for a moment, if you would, that you're standing shoulder deep in a river, small river, and the water is moving by you, not rushing, not going to knock you over, but you can really feel the water, if you would. And let's do something kind of Merabi. Let's put on a little music on this one. So you're standing, and let's turn down those lights. So you're standing in the river, nice clean water, of course, and you can feel the flow of water all around you, on your body. You can feel the temperature. You can feel that force, that there's a pressure as the water flows past you. You can feel the smoothness of the water, even though it's pushing on you. It's kind of flowing around you. You can feel its presence. It has a defined presence, this water. And it's always there. That flow is relatively consistent, always there. That flow, the feeling of the water flowing around your body, is a constant reminder that you're in the river, that you're in the water. It's constantly saying you're here, you're alive, you exist, because you can feel the water flowing around you. This is what time and space are like. There is a constant flow. There's a constant kind of a pressure. There is a type of what I would call gentle resistance, a joyful resistance. In other words, you can feel it. And in this case, time and space moving through you. You can feel it. It's in every part of your biology, every part of your mind. Time and space are like the river. It was a big kind of a leap coming to the understanding that you're not going through time and space, that it's flowing through and around you. Now, in this example, in the river, feeling it against you, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, time and space are the things that are flowing. And if you move your hand in the water or your leg, time and space, or in this case, the water, responds. You're not running through the river. You're not pushing the river as you go. It's flowing around you. That's really the way the whole principle of time-space works. But what happens is now there is a constant, the flow of the river. It's constant, always there. To the point you forget that you're even in the river. You actually start forgetting that there's a flow. You forget that there's kind of a force. You can feel the current. You forget that there's a resistance or a friction. It's a constant. It anchors you. And actually, the flow of the river really never changes, nor the temperature, nor much of anything. It's always there. So pretty soon, you just come to accept it, never to question it, never Never to wonder what it's like not to have this. It's always there. It's a connection. And this is what it's like. It's what it's been like for you. The flow of time and space. Move a leg, move a hand in the river. Dip yourself down. Put your head under the water. It responds to you. It flows around you. This is time and space. And this is what humans do. Okay, let's take a good deep breath with that. That's kind of the overall feeling, the dynamic of time and space. That's what you've been used to. But as you already have started to notice, it's starting to change. It's starting to change. And here's an example of the difference. For the typical human, the river flows to them, through them, and away. They won't even recognize that. They think they're going through time and space, but they're in the river. What happens as you come into your master sense, suddenly you have a different situation. And it goes like this, little music. Now, you're in a big, warm, beautiful swimming pool. Just you, nobody else. Nice, clean, warm water. And you let yourself go underwater, submerge. Just kind of float. This great big pool, beautiful warm water. It's right at about body temperature, so you don't really notice the water. And it's not moving. It's just there. There's no pressure. There's no force. You're just kind of floating. Let yourself feel that for a moment. This is kind of like timeless. That water is in the now moment. It's not pushing against you. It's not going anywhere. You are in a pool of potentials. Timeless potentials. It's just there. You're just there. This is timelessness. And the first thing that you're going to realize as a master, this is nice, but what am I supposed to do with it? So I'm just floating in a pool of warm water. What am I supposed to do? First, allow yourself to be aware of the difference between the moving river and now submerged in this pool of warm water. There's some similarities. They're both water. But everything else is kind of different. This is timeless. What I call the ineffable moment, ineffable presence. Ineffable means without description. No trying to quantify it. No trying to define it. Just floating. Not being pushed here or there, just floating. The ineffable presence, the I am, surrounded by this ocean of potentials that exist beyond time and space. That's what that water is. All potentials. It's also time and space, but it's very different than the river, because the moment you choose now to experience something, the moment you choose to be creative, the moment you choose to express yourself, suddenly that non-moving water, that time and space which is not moving, suddenly gets activated. Suddenly. Then it moves in absolute, perfect response to your desire. But unlike the river, it doesn't just flow for an eternity. You can change it, you can move it, you can adapt it, or it rather adapts to you the moment you choose something. And it's out of time and space. It doesn't matter if you're here in this pool of water, this non-moving time and space. It doesn't matter if right now you're choosing something that the human in the river would have thought was in their childhood. Because there is no time and space, Master. There is no past. There is only the ineffable presence. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter here in this pool of time and space potential. If you are choosing to experience something that the human back in the river thinks is in the future, thinks is upstream somewhere, not here in this pool, because it's timeless. To the human, that's mind-boggling. How can that be? The human's been in the river for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and it doesn't know anything other than the river. It relies on the river. It depends on the river. It uses the river to justify its existence. But here, in the master sense, it's just you in this warm pool of time-space potential. That child that you were, that child that was unsafe at some point, is here right now. Along with the master that some of you would call from the future, but it's not. They're here in this pool with you right now. Those aspects of you that you've struggled with, they're in this pool right now. along with the fully integrated self that you are, all right here, fully integrated. You know, there doesn't have to be linear time and space. You don't have to stand in the river anymore. Hell, the others don't even realize there's a river. You can be in this pool. That child that you were that felt so unsafe can be here right now in the absolute safety of this pool. Right with that master that you're trying to become is right here. There's no separation. There's no distance. They're all here. And suddenly a very funny thing starts happening. A very profound thing starts happening. You see, they've always been here. Always, always. They've always been together. And suddenly that child, that wounded, unsafe child, realizes it is also the integrated master. Also. And. The human that you think you are right now, trying to make its way through the river, trying to become the master, suddenly realizes in this timelessness that the master is already here. There's no separation anymore. And they all can be here. They all can share this ineffable presence. And suddenly everything changes. Suddenly that unsafe child is no longer unsafe. That adult that failed in some things is no longer a failure. That person that's trying to become a master is no longer trying. Because suddenly all the potentials are illuminated. In this place without time or space, you're already there. You don't have to heal the child. You don't have to justify the mistakes. You don't have to try to be the master. They're all here. And then suddenly, in this beautiful moment, I'm drowning. What was I thinking? I'm underwater. I'm floating around in this pool. I'm drowning. Where's I going to catch my breath? That's going to happen. Would you rather have me just tell you, oh, you'll learn to love yourself and it'd be so joyful and you'll have...
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now what's going to happen.
Yeah, for today, yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
God.
It's going to happen. Because the first thing that you realize in the master's sense is that there is timelessness. And you're going to be in time as well. You're going to still be in the river and you're going to be in the pool. Both at the same time. And you're going to be going along like we were now going, oh, I really like this. The music is so nice. By the way, that's from Joham's new Merab's Son album CD. and you're going to be, oh, this is so nice. I'm in the pool just floating. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have this shit realization, I can't breathe. How long have I been underwater? It's the human screaming out, saying, what's wrong with you? You get all this the spiritual stuff, but you forget the practicalities, like you gotta breathe and you have to have a job and you have to eat and you got all these problems from the past and you can't pay your rent. You see what happens? Get used to it. Get used to it. And it's also going to be a disorientation of significant proportions, not to be ignored by those who would otherwise like everything to be sweet and nice. You're going to feel absolutely disoriented physically. Your body, well, you're already going through that, but your body is just going to feel, what is going on? It's going to be that scream, like I just did, that says, you're drowning. It's going to be your body going, where's the river? We need the river. Are you crazy? Let yourself have this experience. What's wrong with you? Get back in the river right away, without that force, without the pressure, without standing in the river for endless lifetimes. You're gonna die. You're gonna go nuts. You're going to go crazy. I'm playing the part of the mind. What are you thinking? You've done this before. Remember when you've allowed yourself these frivolous fantasies, your unicorns and your everything else that you have, your machio. I'm trying to help you. Get back in the frickin' river right now. Like everybody else, just stand there and let the river just pass by. What are you thinking in that pool? What if the pool is owned by somebody else? What if there's alligators in that pool? You're not even supposed to be. You don't own a pool. You don't have enough money to own a pool. And you're standing in a pool. You're floating in a pool. And what if there's alligators that you can't see, because that can happen? And this is reality, my friends. Just like you were talking to the students who are coming into awakening, I'm talking to you who are coming into your master sense. First thing you lose is the balance or the rigidity of time. It's really cool at first because you're just going to be floating along in that timeless, that ineffable presence, that, oh, God, does this feel good? It's so liberating. And then suddenly, reality, your old reality, the river reality. So get ready for it. Are you okay with that now that you know that it's going to happen? Now that you can go, oh, yeah, I remember we talked about this. Oh, now I'm not so worried about it. Now I'm okay. So you are going to feel the effects of timelessness. Be with it. Be bold and daring. Open up to potentials, okay? Okay, this is St. Germain's month. Well, it was historically, there will always be St. Germain's month now. Open up to the potentials that exist in timelessness. In that timeless state, what happens is, I'm using classic examples, the wounded child, the failed adult, and all the rest of that, and the master, the integrated ascended master who comes to the Ascended Masters Club at night, and the wannabe masters. They're all there. And you look in the face of yourself as the ascended master, as the master incoming. You look at that and you go, oh, I did it. Not in the far off future, in this pool, in this presence. I did it. And that little kid that was battered and beat and felt unsafe and all the rest of that you've been trying to heal and process and everything, doesn't need all that. It just needs to be there and go, oh, hey, it worked out. Good. I'm going to go back to playing now and having fun and not worrying about the outcome because it all worked out. Me not worry type of thing. So you lose this whole sense of time, and in the timelessness, it's amazing because you no longer have false veils and false separation in a very linear life that you spent standing in the river. So, but you will feel times nauseous. Please don't start taking vertigo medication or anything like that. Maybe some natural supplements, but get some body work. Get some body work. That'll really throw you off because, no, truly, get body work. Not to try to force yourself back into the river, but to release the concept that you had to be there in the first place. And when you're getting the body work done, go into the pool, the warm pool, and own the pool, by the way, and get rid of the alligators if there are any. And suddenly you realize, hey, this time-space thing, which is really a part of the whole plasma projection onto Bonn and all the rest of that, your reality, This whole time-space thing was a big trick in a way. This time and space are like the water, the warm water in a nice pool, just waiting for you. You could float around there for a long time. It's a big pool of potentials. That's all it is. You float around there, take it easy, do whatever you want while you're floating, listen to nice music, and then the moment you desire to express and experience, to have your creativity come roaring forth, then you start to feel the current, the movement now of time and space in absolute response to you. When you were in the river and it was just flowing, 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 you know, it wasn't really personally responding to you. But now in the pool, it starts personally responding. It's amazing. Suddenly you see what you can create. But the moment you start playing with that, in the big pool, the moment you start playing, you're going to get that scream from the human that's standing in the river saying, "You're drowning, what are you doing?" The moment you start basically just moving and expressing in the pool, and you start to feel how time and space really respond, really bring forth energies. It's so simple and startling and amazing that the human's going to scream, "You've gone crazy now. You are nuts now. What are you thinking? Where are you going?" That's when you have a big laugh, a big smile, and you say, it doesn't matter. Because, well, just feel into it. What is really more real? What is more true to you? So that was the first thing. The second thing, let's take a deep breath for that. We have all night. You don't leave until later tomorrow. Let's take the second thing. Okay. If a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to hear it, does it make a sound? I created that question, by the way, in the mystery schools. I did a lot of things I've never even told you about. So and this is a good mystery school question. So if the tree falls, nobody's there to hear it, does it make a sound, yes or no? In yes and no, kind of, but not really. Because we can go down this rat hole for a long time. In order for anything to be real, to exist, to manifest, consciousness has to be present. Yeah, consciousness. So now you could argue and say, yeah, but that tree falls and it still makes a noise, because you could put a measuring device, microphone, and your statometers or whatever they're called out there, and it's going to register a noise. Well, isn't that device part of consciousness, measuring it? So it's like, well, we have to let that one go, because consciousness was present. Maybe there's a fox or the squirrel, and but you have to have enough consciousness to be able to talk to that fox or squirrel and say, was there a sound yesterday afternoon at 3:45? And then if you had that kind of consciousness, then you were probably there when the tree fell and probably did make a noise. But if you weren't there, does it really? Actually, we could bring this down to almost a scientific level. If it fell and you're not there, there's no consciousness there, you also don't have the sensory device of your ears. Actually, it does not make a sound. It makes a vibration. The ears interpret things as a sound. Yeah. And the question then is, does it even make a vibration? But let's stick to the original thing. Does it make a sound? No, if you're not there. And I use that as an example of also saying, in the master's sense, get over the fact that you have to hear it. It's the presence being there. And it might be a vibration that's perceived. It might be something other than the hearing, or eventually the eyes. that's a whole different shout. But what I want to talk about right now in relationship to this is to carry that question forward. Does a space exist without consciousness? Without consciousness? Are there dimensions that are out there that have never been necessarily visited or been to by soul beings? Do they then exist? This is the master's form of the tree and the sound in the forest. If consciousness has never been there, do all of these other dimensions exist? And the reason why I present that question, by the way, the answer is no. The answer is no. Consciousness has to be present for anything to manifest, to become real. Otherwise, it does not exist. And I bring this up because the next thing you're going to realize with the master sense is that you're going places now, you personally, you as a group, you're going to places that you've assumed existed. You assumed were there. You're going to dimensions. You're going on journeys to places that do not exist. They are called the no place. They don't exist. Nobody's been there. Nobody's... What about the new earth? Totally different subject. Totally different subject, Edith, which I don't want to get into right now. You're going to be going in your timeless, spaceless state of being to places that aren't in the heavens. They do not exist. And in the master sense, this will make total sense. To go someplace that is not even there. It makes total sense. But to the human, this is a huge challenge. It's the old, well, you know, if the tree falls and nobody's there, will it make a sound? If nobody's been there, does it exist? You're going to be going to, they're not really even dimensions. They are states of consciousness, states of being. And when you go there, the human mind, the human that's in the river, is going to doubt it. That's why at the very beginning of this long shout, the very beginning, so what's been happening since the first of the year? And the baseline answer is doubt. You're going to be going there in kind of in consciousness, in realization. But you're going to be going to these states of being in your kind of your mind. Your mind's going to be aware of it, and it will doubt. And it will say, unless it was already there, the near-earth realms, your dream states, unless it was already there, then how could I be here? If I didn't even create it, I didn't effort into it, I'm suddenly here, but it was never here before. I must be going crazy. I must be making all this up. And you're not. You're not. There are realms that you're going to go to, that not archangel realms or spirit family realms or galaxies. There are places that do not exist right now. They're in the great potential of no place at all. And you're going to be going there. Generally on individual journeys, generally by yourself. It's going to be so damn confusing for the mind. It wants reference points. It wants the river of time and space. It wants definition. It wants something. And you're going to be going there in what I call this ineffable presence. Undefinable. Even to the, especially to the mind, undefinable. And I'll tell you right now, just as you were lecturing the awakening students before, now I'm lecturing to you, the masters, it's going to feel strange and beautiful at the same time. And when you think about it, or feel into it rather. You feel into it. You want a reference point. You want something to, as I always say, the mind is associative. It needs something to associate. But you're going to perceive things that, well, a good example, a good time to put on some music. And we'll do a little Merabb cha-cha with this. I'll give you a good example as the music starts playing. So, you all know what colors are. We wear some very nice colors here today. And you're very familiar with the color spectrum. A lot of you know how to mix colors to get other colors. But an example of going to a place that's never been gone to, that does not exist, and that you didn't actually have to work to create, is like being in a color that you've never perceived before. Neither has anybody else. A color. Not green, not blue, not orange, not black, not white. But yet it's a color. The master sense understands this totally. And it doesn't need to go to like a cosmic color or something that angels see, but humans can't. The master has a knowingness that there's colors that were never there before, never seen by even God. Ever, ever. Now, that's a big one for the mind. That's a really big one. The mind is like, well, no, somebody had to make it. I'm just going to visit. No. There are colors, there are spectrums, there are dimensions that do not exist, even in the mind of God. There are places and spaces that you're going to find yourself in that nobody has ever gone to. And you're going to wonder how it got there. You're going to wonder who created it, how old it is, this place that you suddenly find yourself in. Who does it belong to? And you're going to realize nobody's ever been there. Ever. That's what you call this creativity and bond together. This inspiration, this passion. On the backdrop of bond. This screen where any reality can be created and nobody did it. It's one thing to say you're going to take off on a journey, let's say a holiday, and you're going to go someplace that you've been to before. It's what most people do. They go on holiday, they go back to the same place. Maybe they change hotels, but same place. It's comfortable. And then sometimes two people say, I want to go to Japan. Never been there before. But other people have. It's already there. So it kind of makes sense. You hop on an airplane, you go to Japan, your first time, but it's been there forever. Well, been there a long time. When you experience what other people have been experiencing for a long time, and eat food that other people have been eating for a long time, what happens if you go on a journey to some place that doesn't exist? doesn't have a history. And nobody else has ever been there before, but suddenly it's there. That's pretty amazing. But then your mind is going to say, you're drowning. Breathe. You're going crazy. Remember when you did this before? Stop. Get back. And that's when you, as a master, with the master sense, takes a good deep breath in your presence, and you realize you're not going crazy. You're just getting out of the zoo. Let's take a good deep breath with that and realize that to add even more confusion to it, you're going to be experiencing it simultaneous to what you would call your river rat self. You're going to be experiencing it simultaneous to driving down the street, driving to the grocery store, putting up with traffic, thinking about your kids, what has to be done later in the day, your bills. It's going to be happening simultaneous in the ineffable presence. And that's when you take a deep breath and say, I am so into my master sense. That's when you stop and remember this day where some of you got on stage trying to communicate to the ones who are newly awakening, communicate what's going to be happening to them, talking about what comes next as they go from awakening to mastery. You're going to remember that that was a brilliant distraction in this Saint Germain month, a brilliant way of me now being able to tell you what comes now with your master sense. Going timeless, going to places that do not and never have existed is not crazy. It's just part of mastery. The human self is going to scream out. It's going to try to do everything it can to stop you. It's going to go into doubt, the doubt that you've been feeling since the first of the year. And that's when you take a deep breath and you say, all is well in all of creation.